I've been getting paid to be an occupational therapist for just under a year. I work in both acute care, which is what most people think of when they think of a hospital, and acute rehab, which is inpatient rehabilitation. While deciding on an OT school, I shadowed occupational therapists, interviewed occupational therapists, interviewed physical therapists, shadowed physical therapists, and I looked for videos like these. If you're in OT school or considering OT school, then I hope this video, which is full of my own opinions and do not represent the opinions of anyone else, can be helpful for you. There are negatives and positives to every single job, and again, my experience is in the inpatient world, so it's a limited view. But real quick, if you are an OT student and you're taking the NBCOT this spring, or if you want to use the tool to study, I do have a discount for a 90-day subscription from TrueLearn. This video is not sponsored from them, but that's a resource that I use. You can watch my How I Studied for the NBCOT video. It was incredibly helpful, so I wanted to make sure that I shared this resource. Let's dive into all the things I wish I knew. I wish I knew that your coworkers really make or break a workplace. Rehab is absolutely a team sport, and having coworkers that you can trust, ask questions to, and feel safe around is what makes you really successful. As a student, I had a clinical experience in a hospital where the team was absolutely not supportive of each other, and it really ruined the experience for me. I'm lucky that where I wound up working has a wonderful team, and I really trust my coworkers, and they have helped me grow so much over the last 9 months. I wish I knew that all of this talk around productivity really does impact your day in the inpatient world. There is a lot of pressure to see as many patients as possible in a day, and this can be really overwhelming as a new grad as you're just trying to gain skills and not mess anything up. Your productivity is the percentage of time that you spend in a day that is billable versus non-billable. My advice to you as a new grad, from me, a new grad, is to spend time focusing on the quality of care you give, not the quantity. Efficiency will come, but for now, take the time to talk to your team, communicate your plans and thoughts, thoroughly chart review, and focus on your patients. Don't risk your license trying to meet or beat a metric set by administration. You most likely did not get into this field to make a hospital a lot of money, so remember that. On the note of healthcare being a business, insurance sucks, and increasingly so. Unfortunately, it is often what insurance will or will not cover that dictates the care that your patients receive. I'm looking at you, United and Blue Cross. We could go down a big long rabbit hole here, and I am not the most qualified person to talk about this, but I do think it's important to know that insurance decisions do impact what you're able to do with your care. I've also found that dwelling on the injustices will burn me out, so I have to separate from that, and what I can do is the best thing for my patients while I'm in the room with them. So I focus on that. Speaking of the kind of patients that you see in rehab, the population is changing, whether this is from the COVID pandemic or just our aging, unhealthy population. Generally speaking, we are seeing patients with more comorbidities and overall sicker. So whether this is a result of a lot of people not getting to the doctor and getting the care they needed during the pandemic, or an aging population that is seeing the effects of poor healthcare and poor food over many years, or who knows what else, all we know is that there are evidence that our patients are sicker in the rehab world. I wish I knew that I was going to be so fulfilled by my job, even on days that I did not want to show up. I get to see the effects of helping people right there. I spend a majority of the day on my feet, but I get to use my brain in every single interaction. And it's a great combination of my creative and logical sides. Ultimately, it's a wonderful job for me because I get to use my brain and my body, and I don't just have to sit at a desk all day. I wish I knew that hourly pay, which is very common, at least in the inpatient setting in Denver, would really affect my day-to-day. There are times when I have been done with my job and had an awkward 20 minutes where I can't really go see another patient, and I have seen everybody that needs to be seen that day. But if I clock out, then I lose pay for those 20 minutes. I have friends that work in the salary world in the inpatient setting, and they are paid salary because they are often expected to work more than 40 hours per week. So it just so happens that there are days where I find myself just waiting for the clock to run out. I wish I knew that nobody knowing what OT was would actually not have an impact on my day-to-day life. Patients, as soon as I give them a 30-second elevator pitch on why I'm there, are pretty agreeable, and everyone in the hospital has enough of a gist that they know when we're appropriate and when we're not. We also can tell them if we are appropriate or not appropriate. And to be honest, I don't know everybody else's full scope of what they do, so I don't really expect anyone in the hospital to know mine. But in school, it felt like it was kind of hammered into us that no one was gonna know what we would do and no one would respect our opinions, so we were gonna have to fight tooth and nail every single day, and that just hasn't been the case so far, except for with insurance. Can you guys tell how I feel about insurance companies? I wish I knew how much I would grow my skills in the first 8-9 months of being an OT. I obviously am still very new, but I've learned so much as a therapist and have grown so much. I think I was expecting to feel completely incompetent for a very long time, and there are absolutely still moments of that. At the end of the day, I do not feel totally lost. I took on the attitude that I was just gonna ask questions if I didn't know the answer. I wasn't gonna pretend to know the answer, and that has been absolutely beneficial to me because I've grown so quickly. Last thing is something that I absolutely knew, but I'm glad I knew it, so I wanted to share with you, and it is that OTs make good income, but not amazing income relative to the cost to acquire the occupational therapy degree. I started making more than $75K as a new grad, but I had to pay just shy of double that in tuition to get my degree. I knew these numbers going in, so I had a plan, but I definitely know some people who did not. There are definitely cheaper ways to get your degree, and I am happy with the education I got and have no regrets, but I am paying off my loans now, and it is definitely not easy. So if your expectations are different, it's important to consider the cost versus what you're actually gonna make once you've acquired that degree. If you are considering OT school or are a new grad OT or are in OT school, I hope my experience is helpful to you. Ultimately, I started this channel to share my experience, and now this has shifted a little bit to my experience paying off my loans and what life is like outside of my role as an occupational therapist. But at the end of the day, it's a huge part of my identity, and I'm so glad that you're here if you're in the OT bubble. If you've been here since my OT school days, they weren't that long ago, but still, since my OT school days, thank you. You have been a pleasure to have. If you think you might like any of my videos, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.